Well, the CIA would never keep records of its own crimes. That would be self-indictment. I never expected them to find anything in the files for that simple reason. Um, but the files, we don't need the files. Essentially, they're irrelevant, Larry, because we've known the truth since 2008 when James W. Douglas published this book. It was product of 30 years of research, real research, hard research. It's called JFK and the Unspeakable. And of course, it was heavily endorsed by all of the dissident historians, John Perkins, Oliver Stone, Mark Lane, Gerald McKnight. And so all of the court historians have stayed away. But here you have 30 years of research. It's conclusive. Kennedy was assassinated by a plot of the CIA and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and it involved the Secret Service. It had nothing to do with Oswald. He was a total patsy.
As he said.
As he said.
Paul, the big question is why?
Why was he assassinated? Okay, it was a direct result of the Cuban Missile Crisis and the Bay of Pigs. The Cuban Missile Crisis, the military wanted Kennedy to launch a first strike on the Soviet Union. He told them they were crazy. He complained that they were crazy to his cabinet ministers, to his brother, who was Attorney General. The military and the CIA wanted him to involve the U.S. Air Force in the Bay of Pigs to suppress the ability of Castro forces to block the invasion. He refused. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs wanted him to sign off a program. The name of it, I forget now. It's all public. The documents are public. They're marked top secret, but they were all released. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs wanted the president to sign off a program in which American airliners would be shot down, refugee boats from Cuba would be strafed, people would be shot down in the streets of Miami and Washington, D.C., and it would all be blamed on Castro and serve as an excuse for invasion of Cuba. Yeah. And he told them they were crazy. Well, he went further. He fired a number of the CIA people, not just the director. He fired Bissell. He fired the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff. He replaced or redeployed a lot of the officers who were agitating for war with the Soviet Union. It was all of them. Like, for example, George Anderson, the chief of naval operations, that is the head of the Navy. I knew him. I knew him. I had years of relationships with George. He regarded the failure of the Bay of Pigs, and he regarded the fact the president didn't strike Russia because of the Cuban Missile Crisis as a great defeat for the United States. We were humiliated. We were had. These are the words he would use. He went on about it for years. Most of the top officers, the big shots, they saw this as a humiliation for the United States. We had been defeated. And Kennedy was not so much a coward as he was a Soviet agent. Stuff they pulled on Trump later. You see, they always use the same thing over and over. And they convinced themselves, particularly because Kennedy had those backdoor dealings with Khrushchev to calm the whole thing down, that he was conspiring with Khrushchev and the Soviet Union to sell out America. Now, these people believe this. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the head of the CIA, all these, they believe this. Douglas quotes them. You can read from their own words. I'm just reporting. You can see it. And so they came up with the idea they had to get rid of him because he was a traitor to America. The president had turned on America and was negotiating away our future with the Russians. And
yeah, they felt justified in knocking off the president because he was a traitor to the U.S. We were
exactly.
the Soviet Union, et cetera, et cetera. Now, Paul, just a review of what happened during the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962. CIA trained Cuban dissidents, the way I remember it, launched an invasion, and Castro was quickly defeating them. The generals in the CIA wanted Kennedy to call in American forces to reinforce the Cuban dissidents to make the invasion of Cuba and the overthrow of Castro a success. Kennedy refused to bring in American forces directly, so that again was a sign that he was a coward and a traitor to America. And it was defeated. Castro defeated those dissidents and stayed in power. So that really ticked off the generals in the CIA.
Yeah, and in addition to them regarding Kennedy as a traitor, what they really couldn't stomach was we were defeated. We had been defeated, and this got them all worked up, all of them. Like I told you, George Anderson complained about it for years. This humiliating American defeat that Kennedy gave us.
And this is in the height of the Cold War, so the passions were elevated.
Yeah, the passions were high, and the Joint Chiefs, they all said, right now we have the upper hand in nuclear weapons and nuclear delivery systems, and we got to use it now before the Soviets catch up. And so they couldn't convince Kennedy. He would ask him, how can you give me assurance that no American cities will be hit with nuclear weapons? And of course, they couldn't. But so it was a long, drawn-out event, this fight.
What they said was a few American cities wiped out would be an acceptable loss for the larger defeat of the Soviet Union.
Yeah, yeah. And so it is, like you say, but we add to it that their pride and their egos were involved, and their sort of involvement with the power of America, and so you can see from public records that the autopsy done of Kennedy in Dallas by doctors is totally different from the later autopsy done in Washington in the military hospital that became the official autopsy.